You know what started this whole channel? A three-legged shark in Nike sneakers, screaming Italian, a crocodile welded to World War II bomber, a ballerina with a cup head. Yes, Italian Brainrot. It was everywhere, but nobody could explain why it worked. It came from AI slop and TikTok's For You page, like something that crawled out of a train pipe and learned how to scream. It jumped into Roblox, it spawned trading cards, plushies, sticker albums, coins, stage musicals for some reason. And the second we all stopped looking at it, it started mutating rapidly. So this is the story how Italian Brainrot glitched into existence, escaped to steal the Brainrot, got turned into digital money, and quietly infected the real life. And also, it's actually rotting here, the meme or us.
Ballerina cappuccina, bombardiro crocodilo, boneca ambalabu, udin din 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 dun, tung tung sahur, liri li lari la, cappuccino assassino, patapim, chimpanzini bananini.
What you're about to see is the biggest meme market crash since the Great Vine Depression of 2017.
No one really invented Italian Brainrot. Trust me, I checked the shelves. It's the first thing you have to understand. It didn't show up like a thing that was supposed to exist. It just sort of happened. One day your feed's normal. The next day, shark in blue shoes is yelling Italian, and your brain goes, "What the f***?" and keeps scrolling. It feels less like a trend that's starting and more like mold growing in the corner of the algorithm, quietly unplanned, already there by the time you noticed it. What people call Italian Brainrot now wasn't a genre at first, it was just leftovers. Bad accents slapped onto random footage, AI voices that sounded like Duolingo hostage negotiation. Nonsense RAM duct taped to an animal because someone hit generate and didn't care what came out. The rock comes up blood for some reason. Sounds that mean absolutely nothing, but still lodge themselves into your skull like gum in a carpet. Somehow this doesn't stay contained. A year later, adding insult to injury, Oxford Dictionary looks at all of this and goes, "Yeah, Brainrot. That's the word for the year." The same civilization that produced Tralaledo Tralala decided academically that
Brainrot was our defining word.
Somewhere a Victorian Arab linguist just burst into dust. Most of the early videos are gone now, not preserved, not curated, just gone. Account swiped, uploads nuked, digital ash drifting between reposts and screenshots with no timestamps. What survives are the fragments, torn pages passed hand to hand. And one phrase kept floating back up through the noise like a cursed boy. Tralaledo tralala. There's no original upload we can point to. No secret TikTok link, no first edition, just archives. You try to trace it back and the trail just dissolves into reposts and screenshots and dead accounts. Even the wiki gives up, it basically goes, I don't know bro. The earliest version people half remember isn't even the sneaker shark yet. It's a shark with the seagull legs, which is wrong on a spiritual level. Over it, an AI voice is screaming aggressive, incoherent Italian noises like it's being threatened with a captcha. The mutation kicks in, the seagull legs vanish, third leg shows up, and the blue Nikes lock in. This is the version that sticks. By January 2025, TikTok is flooded with burner accounts posting the same thing on loop. The shark flows onto your screen, the same audio blares, the same synthetic planet plays out. Racks up millions of views, and the accounts evaporate. The video disappears with them, but the audio just keeps circulating, ripped, re-uploaded, stitched together into new garbage like nothing ever happened. Once the sound outlives the creator, ownership is already dead. At that point, the shark doesn't belong to anyone anymore. It belongs to the feeds, and the feeds does what it does best. It grabs the thing, grinds it up, and throws it back at you wearing a slightly different skin, like it's proud of the remix. Around the same time, something slips in sideways. Tung 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 sahur, and this one hits different. Even if nobody's calling it 2 AM clocks in. Why? Because unlike everything else in the Brainrot multiverse, sahur actually means something. It's pre-dawn meal before fasting during Ramadan. In Indonesia and Malaysia, people wake up the neighborhood with rhythmic drumming and chants meant to carry across the streets. That rhythm is real. Those records have been floating around online for years, way before Brainrot even got its hands on them. And grinded all the meaning down. But none of that context survives in the algorithm. The sleep-deprived For You page brain, it just sounded foreign, goblin core, fake Italian adjacent, so it gets folded into the same cloth as the sea life in sneakers and crocodiles with jets. Everything else in Italian Brainrot is fake. Fake Italian, fake lore, fake urgency. Sahur isn't fake. It's real religious practice stripped all of its context and shoved into the meme engine. That's when the tinfoil hats come out. In comment sections and Discord servers, people half joke that this was a stat normalization for Islam, not education, not preaching, just repetition. A word you hear enough times that it stops sounding foreign. There is no proof that this was deliberate, no group claimed it yet. Most likely it was just another sound at work and got recycled until it lost all of its meaning. But the fact anyone asked these questions matters. The machine was loud enough to flatten anything. Then comes the counterpunch. Bombardillo Crocodilo steps to the plate. Crocodile welded to a bomber plane. Narrator talking about bombing children in Gaza and Palestine. On its own, it looks like pure shock trash. Another escalation, another how far can we push this moment. But right after sahur, it stops feeling random, it starts feeling reactive? Where sahur carries cultural weight, Bombardillo leans hard into provocation, political, aggressive, internationally radioactive. Some people laugh, some people flinch, some people argue in the comment sections for 3 days straight. None of that slows it down. If anything, it feeds into it. Then the tone whiplash hits. Ballerina cappuccino, a ballerina with a cappuccino cup for a head. Trapped in a forever-lasting melodramatic garbage soap opera about love triangles, betrayals, and tragedy, all read by Italian Google Maps. People confidently claim her name comes from an Italian nursing rhyme. I couldn't find one. No source, no rhyme, just repetition pretending to be lore. Her story usually circles around with Cappuccino Assassino and Ballerina Lololo, who exist almost entirely in theory, because nobody ever listens to the whole audio. The scroll cuts it off, the story keeps going without them. So Ballerina Lololo gets memory holded by attention spam, not by deletion. Same format, different mess. Pre-dawn meal becomes a catchphrase, wake-up call becomes a mascot. A response becomes an escalation. Nothing gets explained, nothing gets translated. It just keeps looping until it worms into your head. By the early spring 2025, TikTok Reels and Shorts are saturated with the same names, same voices, same nonsense wearing different visuals. The lore contradicts itself or it doesn't exist at all. Watching it feels like getting a push notification from a fever dream or a bad trip. The comments already show that. This rotted my brain, and I don't know why this exists. Share. From a creator's perspective, this is the real tell. Not that it's clever, not that it's meaningful, that it doesn't die. Accounts vanish, sounds survive, characters multiply, no single upload ever feels definitive. But the format keeps reasserting itself like a cursed reference book that keeps providing its own context. And somewhere deep beneath the stacks, something giggles. And by the time people start asking what Italian Brainrot even is, it's already familiar. And once something this weird becomes familiar, the internet never slows it down. It bears its fang and hits fast forward. Early 2025 is when Italian Brainrot stops being just content and starts behaving like a system. You can feel the temperature change. Not in a dramatic way, not with fireworks. It's quieter than that. It's the kind of shift where nothing looks different on the surface, but suddenly everything is moving faster, and nobody knows who hit the button. Two things happen in tandem. And no, nobody coordinated this, nobody had to. The first thing is the tools. By February and March, AI image and video generation stops being impressive and starts being boring. Fast, cheap, good enough, you don't need editing skills, you don't need timing, you don't need taste, you don't need to understand humor, or Italian, or literally anything about what you're making. You type some bullshit, you click generate, you wait a few seconds, boom, content. An animal appears, an object gets welded to it, a voice starts yelling, "Congratulations, you contributed to the Brainrot." This is where I step in. Not as a genius, just another with a surfboard spotting a wave and trying to ride the Kali Yuga. The real shift isn't that creation gets easier, it's that variations get free. You don't invent characters anymore, you remix whatever sound or name the feed is already chewing. You don't wait for a joke to land, you make 10 versions of it and see what sticks. Speed replaces authorship. While that's happening, the second thing wakes up. Crypto. Prices start creeping back up. The scars from the last cycle fade just enough so people forget how much it hurt. The timeline fills with charts again. Everyone suddenly has conviction, and a favorite new project they definitely believed all along. And platforms like Pump.Fund show up and make launching a token feel less like finance, and more like posting. No paperwork, no white paper, no roadmap, no adult supervision. Name it, upload an image, click launch.
Just like the ancient ritual.
These two systems snap together like clockwork. Every time a new Brainrot character starts circulating, there's now a reason to move fast. Not after it peaks, but before. The goal isn't to react to a meme, it's to preload the trade. Create the character, launch the coin, let the algo do the rest. In theory, it almost sounds respectable. If the meme takes off, the coin is already there. Early hoarders win. Everyone else buys the chart and tells themselves a story about community. In practice, it turns into a feeding frenzy. By spring, Brainrot coins are popping up across chains within hours of new characters appearing. Most of them have no connection to whoever made the original clip. Some are launched before the meme even spreads, just gambling the attention will show up later. Most of them follow the same arc. I've seen this joke before, too many times. Fast pump on novelty, screenshots flood social media, liquidity thins out, the chart collapses. People convince themselves this one's different somehow, that they're still early. This one has a real community. The shark in sneakers is finally my time to take out a loan or invest my grandparents' money. If you ever played RuneScape as a kid, you already know how this ends. Someone offers to trim your armor. You trade them your full rune set, they log out, and the 11-year-old you just sits there, stone-faced, staring at the screen. Your entire week's worth of grinding is gone. That's what most shitcoins were, armor trimming scams for noobs. But timing matters here. Early 2025 is still the optimism phase. People haven't burned enough yet. They are willing to believe, willing to gamble, willing to convince themselves. This time they understand economics. And what matters isn't that the coins failed, is what they've proven. Italian Brainrot wasn't just repeatable, it was monetizable, even before it finished spreading. That realization changes the whole game instantly. Once people see that attention can be captured, packaged and pumped this fast, the next move becomes glaringly obvious. If you can't hold it in a chart, look it in a system. Chats leak, coins collapse, but the system persists. And that's when the game starts showing up.
Deep beneath the stacks, something sharpens its claws.
Because June is when Italian Brainrot stops being traded and starts being played.
If you're still here, you already crossed the point of no return. Might as well hit the like sigil on your way. It won't save you, but it lets the algorithm know you enjoy the ride.
Before Stila Brainrot turned Italian Brainrot into a system, something else happened first. The sounds got weaponized, because after the original audio started circulating, came the edits. Funk edits, Nightcore edits.
And I need to be very clear about something. Yes, Nightcore. Not sped up version, not TikTok version. Nightcore, you uncourteous swines.
Every single character gets one. Your feed turns into 1.25 times pitch shifted hellscape, where everything is yelling and nothing is new anymore. This is where the rot stops being visual and starts being neurological. The rhyme and the names eat into your brain like a cursed Pokemon. I'm getting flashbacks.
Electro, Diglett, Nidoron Monkey, Venusaur, Rattata, Fearow, Pidgey.
Recognition becomes muscle memory, and that's when a specific kind of creator starts popping off. The reflex guys. And yes, that's where Anatoxic shows up. I'm not going to pretend I audited his entire pre-Brainrot career. Maybe he was speedrunning, maybe he was reacting to other garbage. Maybe he was just yelling into a microphone and the algo finally gave him a platform. Doesn't really matter. What matters is this. He was an up-and-coming YouTuber, Italian Brainrot hits critical mass in early 2025, and he doesn't stop to analyze it or write a thread about cultural decay. He grabs it by the throat, stress tests it.
Trallallero trallala.
Trallallero trallala.
The shorts that blow him up are brutally simple.
And kind of evil.
The screen is zoomed in so far you can barely tell what you're even looking at. Sometimes it's 6 pixels of blue, sometimes it's a sliver of a shoe, sometimes it's just textures and vibes. No intro, no warning, the timer starts, he blurs the name instantly. The jokes write themselves. These clips go feral. Shorts, TikToks, reuploads of the reuploads. Kids pause the video and argue in the comments, flex that they got it in 0.3 seconds. Chants the name like a dark spell from an ancient tome. Italian Brainrot stops being something you passively watch. It becomes something you recognize.
Once the recognition becomes reflex, you're not staring into the void anymore, the void is staring back.
That shift matters, because when Stila Brainrot shows up in June, it doesn't feel like a new idea. It feels like the obvious next symptom. And no, I'm not going to explain the game like a tutorial. Here's the whole pitch. You buy the features, other people take your you feel anger, repeat. That's it. That's the entire design document. The important part isn't what buttons you press, it's what it does to people. Recognition becomes value, characters become property. Loss becomes something public and humiliating. Brainrots aren't gameplay objects, they are status symbols. They are to be flexed, to be stolen, so kids rage at each other. Progress doesn't come from skill, it comes from vibes, from knowing which brainrots are trending, sensing when someone is about to raid you, logging out the moment your spider senses are tingling. And Anatoxic.
Я сворвал у чувака Тун-Тун Саура, бежать, бежать, бежать.
He rides this wave perfectly, not in a noble way, in a Kali Yuga on a longboard type of way. Right place, right time, zero dignity. He pivots into gameplay almost immediately, not because it's deep, but because it's content. Loud sessions built around chaos, panic, screaming at kids who just lost their favorite JPEG. And it works. He catches the wave exactly at the right second and rides it straight into success, fueled entirely by timing, volume, and the raw power of yelling into a headset. His audience is already primed. They know the names, they know the prices, know how bad it feels to lose one. At the same time, Stila Brainrot stops being just a Roblox hit. It mutates into a format itself. Because the loop is so bare bones it's easy to clone. Roblox feels with near identical games, same bases, same stealing mechanics, same emotional damage. Sometimes the characters change, sometimes they don't even bother. Outside Roblox, the idea leaks, mobile clickers, quick match games, Fortnite Creative Islands. Hashtag not sponsored. Yeah. All rebuilding the same loop with different skins and worse UI. What spreads isn't Italian Brainrot anymore. its structure wrapped around it.
And that's where the vibe changes.
Because once structure works, the legal fog starts thinning. Most Brainrot characters are ownerless by accident. They come from remix culture repos, AI sludge. Nobody can point to a clear origin, except one. Tung 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 Sahur. Unlike the others, Sahur didn't start inside Italian Brainrot. It arrives preloaded with real war meaning. So when still a Brainrot gets big, and the money starts stacking, people start quietly asking the wrong kind of question. Does this belong here? Does anyone actually own this? Is this going to cause a problem? Later in 2025, those questions turn into a private dispute over its use. Tung 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 Sahur is just gone. And that quiet removal says more than any announcement ever could. Italian Brainrot feels ownerless in the feeds. It feels communal when it's post. But the second you lock it inside a system with rarity tiers and cache attached, some pieces of it stops being safe to touch. Because once you freeze chaos into roles, it stops being chaos, it becomes infrastructure.
And infrastructure always has limits, even when nobody means to be at them.
By midsummer 2025, Italian Brainrot doesn't need to prove jack shit anymore. And that's exactly when things start going wrong. Because once something gets big enough, it stops climbing and starts spreading sideways, like mold on wet drywall. There's no dramatic collapse, no clean clip you can slow-mo into a TikTok funeral footage. It's slower than that. It's this quiet dilution that creeps in while everyone is still clapping. You don't notice the rot until the whole shaft smells weird. By now the format is locked, recognition is instant, the name already lives in your head rent-free. The machine is humming in autopilot. So instead of making new characters, people start dragging unrelated and stapling the label on top, not because it fits, but because it moves. This is when Smurf gets resurrected, not as a tribute, not as a clever callback, just raw material. And let's be honest here, Smurf Cat was Brainrot before we even had a name for it. Off-model Blue Cat, catchy song, viral loop. The absorption was inevitable. Same thing with Meow and Strawberry Elephant. Anything dead but still reachable. This isn't classification, it's grave robbing. The system stopped asking, does this fit? And starts asking, will this click? Everything goes into the same aesthetic blender. Slap the Italian Brainrot sticker on it, ship it. Feeds eat it. At this point, the joke isn't mismatch anymore. The joke is that the label still works. You can duct tape a toaster to a hamster, call it spaghetti plastering, and the algorithm nods, yeah, that checks out. And then still a Brainrot devs see this and think, okay, lean into it. Hey, this is wet gravestone sour. They don't just add more Brainrots, they add themselves. Actual devs self-insert, walking around in the roster. Part of the lore, waving from inside the joke like it's a yearbook cameo. That's the moment where the illusion dies, because the whole magic of Italian Brainrot was, it felt ownerless, directionless, like nobody was driving the bus, and somehow that was the point. The second the devs wave at the camera, it stops being some random it becomes a strategy, and that is terminal cringe. Meanwhile, the label keeps expanding. Everything becomes Italian Brainrot. Old memes, random animals, licensed mascots, stuff that has zero tonal overlap. Doesn't really matter. Recognition is enough. This is when it pisses in a lot of Cheerios. Because now you don't even get the mismatch humor, you get slop. Same cadence, same AI voice, same fake Italian syllables, different corpse. By August 2025, nothing is confusing anymore. It's predictable. You know the punchline before it lands. You hear the voice before it speaks. You can feel the structure in your bones. Nothing surprises you. So creators escalate. Names get longer, voices get harsher, imagery gets louder. Not because it adds meaning, because motion is the only lever left. Outside the game you can feel the fatigue. Comments stop laughing, people type shibao. Creators start meta-joking about how nothing hits anymore. Even irony sounds tired. By late summer, it's not spreading because people love it. It's spreading because it's everywhere. That's not hype, that's saturation. When the shelves are this full, nothing new gets noticed. Italian Brainrot doesn't disappear, it just stops surprising anyone. It becomes background radiation. That's how you feel the fever dream is ending. Not with silence, with total saturation. While all of this is exploding online, something else starts happening, quieter, closer to the ground. Italian Brainrot leaks out of the screen. It leaks out through objects. Cheap ones, stuff designed to get lost under a desk or traded for half a sandwich. By mid to late 2025, Brainrot trading cards and sticker albums just start appearing. Not in ironic web shops, in real stores, hanging on pegs next to football cards and licensed cartoons, like they were always been there. Glossy packs, rarity stars, rules printed on the back, fake little games pretending to exist, so parents feel like they are buying strategy instead of noise. Some of it even comes from established companies. That should have been a red flag. Panini-style sticker albums complete the set. Chase the foil, pretend there's depth. The game barely matters. It's always some rock, paper, scissor variation, wearing stats like Halloween costume. Attack beats defense, defense beats speed, speed beats attack. Close enough that nobody questions it. Because the rules aren't the point, collection is. Kids trade these cards in schoolyards, argue about which Brainrot is stronger. Treat rarity like law because it's stamped on holographic foil. The characters do all the heavy lifting. Recognition does the rest. And it doesn't stop at cardboard. At some point, a Broadway-style stage musical gets announced. I still don't know who that was for. Big lights, big costumes, earnest choreography built around nonsense syllables. For one deeply cursed moment, Italian Brainrot exists under the theater light. That is when it hits. This thing traveled from AI sludge to TikTok to Roblox to a stage with ticket prices and ushers. Nobody pauses long enough to ask if it should exist here, it just does. And where recognition goes, the bootlegs follow. Always faster, always cheaper, always worse. Cheap plastic mystery bags flood in, mostly from factories that do not give a single fuck about workers' rights. Figures with warped proportions, painting is slightly off, faces sculpted from memory after a 12-hour shift. Some are clearly meant to be Tralalelo or Bombardiro. Some are almost right, some look like something else entirely. Knockoff cards show up, recycled Pokemon borders, Yu-Gi-Oh frames, random stats pulled from thin air. Names misspelled, logos slightly wrong, or stretched until it gives up. Then comes plushies, then shirts, backpacks. None of it is good. Even by Brainrot standards, it's rough. Thin fabric, bad stitching, prints cracking after one wash. And it sells anyways, because by now, quality is irrelevant. It doesn't need to be funny, it doesn't need to make sense, it just needs to exist. All of this happens in the background, while TikTok trends rise and collapse, while Roblox servers melt over stolen Brainrots, while coins pump and rug. In the real world, kids show up to school with off-brand Brainrot backpacks, trading cards that barely resemble anything from the internet, plastic figures that smell like that. This is how you know the post breached containment. Not when it trends, not when it's controversial. When boomers who do not understand it are selling it because it moves units. And this is how you know the cycle is peaking. Bootlegs are a lagging indicator. By the time the shelves are full of knockoffs, the factories have caught up. Distributors overcorrect, demand starts wobbling. A few months later, the mystery bag sits untouched, sticker albums stop restocking, backpacks quietly disappear. No announcement, just absence. Italian Brainrot doesn't vanish online. It never truly does. It still gets views somehow. Still claws back into your feed wearing new skin. But in the physical world, the moment the bootlegs stop selling is the moment the fever breaks. So yes, this channel was born in the rot. Italian Brainrot started as a shark in sneakers and ended up as toys, tokens, Roblox games, stage musicals, and confused boomers asking what a bombardillo is. The hype cools in some places, mutates in others. The beast didn't die. It split like a hydra and clawed into different corners of the feed. And the next time one of these things flies across your screen, remember this. Your attention was always the real currency. Not the coins, not the cards, not the views. You. Yes, you. You in specific. You signed the ledger back in segment 2, don't pretend you forgot. If you're still here right now, you are already part of the artifact record. Might as well finish the ritual. Edge the subscribe room, leave your mark in the comments. Stay chaotic, stay skeptical. The shelves are still watching.